Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Muddy Studs Rugby Podcast with me, Alfie Martin, bringing you exclusive rugby content and an inside look into the lives of professional rugby players. Now, today we're going to be speaking to a very special young prospect just coming out of Exeter. He joined the Exeter Chiefs through the academy setup, went to Truro College Rugby Academy where he learned his craft and has played his first season of men's rugby down at Plymouth Albion Rugby Club. It's the young buck himself. It is Frankie Nowell, of course, brother of England and British and Irish Lions winger Jack Nowell. Frankie, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's great to have you here and to be able to chat to you today. Thanks, Frankie, for joining us. It's great to have you here, and it's great to be able to chat with you today. I want to get kind of started, really, just kind of just seeing how things are with you, how things are going in Plymouth. Obviously, your season with them's now over, but how's it been for you? How have you found it?
Yeah, first year of men's rugby, really. Enjoyed it a lot. We had a difficult start to the season. Obviously, with number wise, we were short of a few players. There was quite a lot of injuries. As boys started to come back, we had a good last couple games, got ourselves up the table a tiny bit as we were right down the bottom. So it's been good, sort of getting into it. It was a struggle at first, obviously a lot of training that my body wasn't used to. So it was tough for the first part of the season, working my way into it. But as the games went on, I sort of got the hang of it. Obviously a lot more physical compared to academy rugby. And but yeah, it's been good.
Of course, yeah. So it's been a bit of an up and down season, shall we say, for Plymouth. But your name on the team sheet's been fairly consistent. Is there anything you've been doing extra, any kind of anything special that's kind of kept your name on that team sheet? Do you reckon?
I think it's just been, obviously we've struggled with numbers, and obviously there's been boys playing out of position. Like we've had Herbie, who's usually our captain, playing at 12. I know Millsy, who's a flanker, played on the wing one game of the season. And obviously there's a couple more boys that are down on loan from Exeter as well. Me, Danny Southworth, Shay, Max Norrie's been there as well. Tom Cairns has joined us down there. I think just with us, like obviously we get that experience from the club at Exeter, and to sort of take that down to Plymouth, it gives us a good chance to sort of take the stuff we learn at the club and take it down to Plymouth and bring it into our game down there. So I know Exeter obviously look at us to just perform as well as we can and help and go for Plymouth as well. So
is there much dialogue there? So obviously, you're with Exeter on loan at Plymouth, but is there much when it comes to analysis and it comes to talking about your games and stuff, is there a lot of chat with Exeter, or is it kind of a lot focused in Plymouth as well?
So a bit of both, really. So our games are put onto like a sporting app that we view, and we get clipped. So every sort of like part you have in the game, your name will be clipped. So we'll watch it at Exeter. We usually sit down with one Pacific coach and go through like your good parts, your bad parts, where we can improve. And then that's more so like at Exeter, it's more one-on-one we do. And then when we go down to Plymouth, it's a team. Sort of we all go through the game, we talk about it. So there's a bit of that learning Exeter on your own and then taking that back down to Plymouth.
Of course, yeah. And is that at Exeter, that step up for you, not just to men's rugby, but, being at Exeter as well is a hell of a step, from academy rugby, from college rugby, obviously with your time at Truro College. Has that been, has that felt like a huge step, or has it kind of been transitioned quite nicely for you?
Like I said, obviously, academy rugby these days is high standard as well. So going into it, I know I spent the early part of the season, I went down to Pirates for a couple of weeks, and I sort of worked my way around there, getting used to the sort of men's sort of the speed of the game more than anything. And then going into the club was another step up from that, because everything's just done so quick. Like you have our forwards moving just as quick as our backs. And obviously at first I was blown away. I was like, Jesus, this is a massive step up. So it did take me a good like month or two to sort of get my foot on the ground and just settle into it. And then going down to Plymouth, that part of being at Exeter, sort of the early part of the season, the training helped out a lot, because then when I went down to Plymouth, it wasn't too much of a shock into the game sort of thing. So it wasn't actually too bad, but the early part of the season was a bit, I did struggle a lot to sort of, well, fitness wise, I was fit, but it's just the game was so quick, I wasn't used to it. So it was a bit of a shock to the body.
And you're playing with some pretty big lumps as well, so that's going to take its toll as well. So, going to Exeter, obviously having Jack there, settled in. Obviously, he's big name, big character at the club. Was he a big support to you when you came in, kind of settle those nerves and get you settled into the team?
Yeah, so luckily for myself, obviously having Jack as my brother as well, was I knew quite a few of the boys in there previously from just being around and seeing them. Obviously going to his house when I wasn't living in Exeter, and I managed to see a few of the boys before going to watch the games, and I like knew some of the boys before, so it was a help sort of going into the club. I didn't feel too like, oh, I don't know anyone here. And then just sort of learning the Exeter ways was a big help with Jack, because I sat down with him quite a lot and just went through all the moves, the way we play, and that did help out a lot, sort of going into training, and as I knew a bit more than what I should have.
So obviously having Jack growing up, older brother, has massive success in rugby, then and you coming through the ranks, and now you're training with him, you're on the same team as him. I'm imagining on the training paddock, you're up against them at some point. Do you get competitive? Do you get up in each other's faces, or is it all fairly quite tame?
Nah, it's all quite tame. There's a bit of a joke. I know there's a video where he stepped me on the out and he had a bit of a joke about it, but it is tame to really. When training, I'd say is quite light contact. So when we do our contact, it's there, but compared to when we're like training against each other, it's not too much of a massive, like no boys are smashing each other and stuff. So it's not too much of a physical thing. But obviously then when it does come to our contact part, that's when we step in and do our contact. But it is all quite tamed, really.
Cool. Yeah. And kind of touched on it growing up, when Jack was kind of finding his feet, finding his success. For you growing up, was rugby always, was it almost kind of it was always going to happen for you, or was it something you kind of found on your own, or did you kind of feel that the almost like the family trade, it was almost designed and almost it was always going to happen for you?
I wouldn't say it was always going to happen. It was obviously when going into rugby, and if it's going to become a full-time thing, it's just to your ability, really. I always wanted to be a rugby player. Like obviously seeing Jack playing from a young age and working himself up, like it always was something I wanted to do. I wasn't too much of a fan of school and education, so it was something that made me sort of work a bit more harder towards, as I knew that school wasn't really my thing. So it did give me that extra push to just train a bit harder and want to go for it more.
And so you both went through Truro College, the rugby academy over at Truro. That's for anyone who's listening doesn't know, the academy set up at Truro is a feeder basis for Exeter. So when you went to the college, obviously the legacy that Jack had left in the years since he had been at the college, obviously him and Luke going through there together as well. For you, kind of going into that environment, was there, did you feel the added pressure of being, Frankie Nowell, that last name and the kind of weight that had on it? Did you feel that pressure, or did you see it as more of a motivation for you to make a name for yourself?
I think there always will be a slight bit of pressure, as I want to do as well. But I think going into college, it was more of a base, like it was more of a, you're in a position where you don't know where things are going to go in your rugby career. And Truro College, for example, is like a massive thing. So the coaches down there, Marek, Tom Rawlins, obviously S&C coach down there, them two are sort of people that push you towards, if you're there and you're good enough, you'll play. But college rugby was a big sort of, when I got to college, I was a bit like, okay, definitely in my second year as well, I was a bit more like, okay, I want to be a rugby player. And those two really helped me sort of knuckle down my game, where I was good in my game. Obviously, Tom and Matisse down at the college, the S&C coaches helped me out a lot, gym wise, to sort of get to where I needed to be. But yeah, college is definitely where I found my feet a little bit and was like, oh, I'm going to definitely go for that rugby sort of career.
Did you find any difficulties with Truro in terms of playing up on a pitch and your opposition sees Nowell on the shirt, on the team sheet? Did you find yourself with a bit of a target on your back? Other people having a point to prove, or did it kind of not feel so much like that?
Playing wise, is obviously your team. All the boys at college, so all my mates at college, we were a very close bunch of boys. So when it come to games, it was more like we just focused on the way we played at Truro College. So the opposition, we didn't really think too much about. I never really thought about, I may get targeted here because my name. I sort of just thought, as our college team, we're so close together, we just thought we're going to play this. I thought everyone thought the same. We're just going to play and go out there and hope for the best result. So I don't think too much of it, but there's always been something that I thought about, oh, maybe I'll get targeted a bit, but I don't think it's been something I've worried about.
And you've certainly, since your time at college, moving on to your time at Albion, you've settled into men's rugby. After your full first season, what are your goals for the future? Kind of, if you're thinking short term, are you looking to just knuckle down and keep doing the things you're doing, or is there anything in particular that you're thinking, yeah, I need to kind of knuckle down and crack on with this?
So obviously, yeah, my first year at Exeter was just a 1 year sort of deal. And I'll be there for another 2 years now. I'll be down Plymouth for next season as well. So I feel like it's sort of, this season's been a good sort of year to work towards. So I found my feet in sort of my game. I know what I can improve on a lot. And I feel like it's just been a good season to work my way towards. So I think next season will definitely be a season where I want to target for higher things and just basically keep going the way I'm going, but just basically just working as hard as possible, just on and off the pitch, to hopefully get as far as I can, really.
Is there, are there any, for you, I don't know if you kind of had a look at, what you want to do, as a career, if that, obviously rugby as a career, looking further forward into the future, is there anything that you kind of have in the back of your mind as, I want to get to this level, I want to do this, I want to achieve, a specific milestone, or are you just kind of taking things as they go and taking each season as they come to just improve yourself?
Yeah, at the moment, I'm not thinking too much about what I'm going to do after rugby. I'm just going to give it a good shot and see how far I can get in rugby. And I always think in the back of the mind, obviously, coming from a family of fishermen, there's always a backup plan of being a fisherman when I'm a bit older. But at the moment, I'm just going to try and aim as high as possible and try and see how far I can go, really.
Yeah, sure. Do you get out on the boats any much, or are you firmly on the rugby pitch at the moment? Was that just as
backup? Yeah, I haven't actually. My dad don't go out to sea anymore himself, but he still has his fishing business. I think it's something you sort of have to work towards, but I don't think I'll be getting on the boats anytime soon.
Stick to the studs.
Yeah. Just not something I'll put myself into yet.
Fair enough, mate. That's all good. Mate, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's been great to kind of chat to you and to get a little bit of an insight into you as a player and as a person. We wish you all the best for the future with Exeter and Plymouth, and hope it all goes well for you.
All right, thank you very much.
Great to speak to Frankie there, and just to see him shining on the stage already at such a young age. Now, you can find every episode of the Muddy Studs Rugby Podcast on Spotify. You can also find us on social media on Instagram and Twitter at the Muddy Studs. Keep an eye out for any future episode announcements, and they'll be coming up shortly, so we'll see you very soon. Thanks for listening.